The CMF Phone 2 Pro retains a lot of what made the original CMF phone really, really great, such as its modularity, but there are significant changes when it comes to the Phone 2 Pro. Besides the Pro moniker, of course, you get 120Hz, 6.77-inch AMOLED display now with 3000 nits of peak brightness at the top end in HDR. You also get a Dimensity 7300 Pro processor, we'll get to that in a second, and an all new design profile. A lot to discuss then and a lot to look at. But when it comes to the design itself, there are changes mainly on the rear. The design profile of the CMF Phone 2 Pro, as we mentioned, is significantly different when it comes to the back. You actually get two tones here, and one thing you do need to note, beyond the lanyard, which attaches to the bottom bit here, you can't actually remove the back panel case, and the magnetic wallet is the only two things that actually are compatible with the CMF Phone 2 Pro. Now, where it retains its modularity essentially is through a universal case. You then add on your lenses and your other bits and bobs. And to be fair, best bit of advice, if you're going to use the lenses, which I'll show you later in this review, then I would say just keep the universal lens on and you can clip on and clip off. In terms of the feel, this two-tone back looks really good. It feels super plasticky, like super plasticky, but slightly rugged too at the same time, but overall it looks pretty good. And then on the front, you've got that 6.77-inch display, 120Hz, AMOLED, billion colors, and that over 3000 nits of peak brightness in HDR. However though, beyond the display itself, let's talk about the OS of the CMF Phone 2 Pro. The Phone 2 Pro retains the same OS, nothing OS 3.0, as the 3A Pro and 3A. So this is not stripped out in any way, shape or form. So you get tons of excellent features on here. Super fast animation, super fast navigation, no issues at all. Nothing OS does take a little bit of getting used to in that it is super feature rich, but all those features you're gonna use, if that makes sense. There's not any bloatware on here. In fact, in terms of applications, this is roughly around 30 preloaded. A lot of those are Google ones. Compared to say a Xiaomi or a Poco phone, they have 60 plus, Oppo phone 60 plus, Realme 60 plus. They have an insane amount of apps. This does it. It almost has, almost beyond the skin, of course, with nothing OS, almost has a sort of stock Android-esque experience, which is excellent. And generally using the whole phone is super smooth and easy, no issues at all, tons of customization. And the AI component of customizing lives predominantly within the wallpapers, where you can generate your wallpapers, giving it prompts. A little bit limited, but fine. You do get things like AI Eraser, etc. All the stuff that you used to, Google Gemini used to. And of course, it also gets the things I love, personal essential key here as well, and that will get you to essential space. Now, quick touch on this. We have given you a full breakdown of this in our 3A Pro review, so check that out as well if you wanted a bit more information on that key. But you tap this once, you take a screenshot, you can record a note, or you can, if you wanted to, using the same sort of system, you hold down the essential key and then you can record a voice note, and then this will live in your own essential space. We haven't used it much on the 2A2 Pro, primarily because we use it so much on the 3A Pro. So like we said, check out that video. Overall, the experience is excellent. In terms of OS updates, to quickly touch on that, 3 OS updates and 6 years of security updates. So 3 OS updates are the major sides of it, and then 6 security. So in terms of the longevity of this phone, actually it's pretty good. Not the level, say, the Samsung or equivalent Apple phone, but still very good. And moving on, we said the biggest change of the phone was always on the rear. And yes, besides the two-tone back, you have a triple camera array instead of a single lens compared to last year. Throughout this video, we've been using this, the Boya Mic 2. Now, very kindly, Boya sent this to us to use, demo, and be able to introduce this to the world on its launch date, which is today, 14th of May, which is awesome. But also, let's talk about the quality and what the spec is of this particular mic. Now, you do get AI ANC on this device as well. You get studio grade sound quality. You can connect this mic via the app as well to manage all the ANC components, as well as your levels in terms of sort of the sound levels, highs, mids, lows. Also on top of that, you get 90 decibels SNR of studio sound, 32-bit float onboard rec with 8 gigabytes of storage, and a case that will house not just this mic, but also the receiver, cables, an additional mic, and your connector for your USB-C enabled devices like your iPhones and your Samsungs, which is sick. And the case itself is super, super compact. But one thing throughout this entire review that you may not have noticed, and on this video right now, is there's a lot of actual background noise going on right now. Windows are open, there's people talking in the background, but you would never know because using the ANC, it blocks out a majority of that noise. Obviously within a closer distance, it won't, but it does a really good job of analyzing the environment around you and cancelling out that background noise, which is sick. And it does all of this for the low price of around £200. Now you're probably thinking £200 for a mic is a lot of money. Yes, it is, but you are getting something that a competitor would charge you upwards of £400 to £500 for. And Boya is an extremely reputable brand. And when we first ever started filming content on YouTube, we actually used a lavalier mic via Boya as well, and it gave excellent quality. But then let's talk about the unboxing experience. It's pretty simple and pretty basic. You obviously get the case, you've got a bunch of accessories like dead cats, lav mics, you also get the clips for the lav mics as well, and a carry case as well. And in this short unboxing, stop motion one, we're just showing you what you get with the additional labels. So this is incredible value for money. Really, really grateful for Boya for sending this to us. So if you're interested in this, I'm sure you would be if you want to make sure your audio is at the best possible quality, check out our link in description, and that will give you a link to buy this directly from Boya. The rear is where the modularity kicks in hyperdrive, because you've got 3 cameras on the rear. You've got a 50 megapixel main, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and then for the first time in this price category, a 50 megapixel telephoto. However, if you wanted to, you can actually add additional lenses. Yes, so you can buy a universal case with it, 2 additional lenses. So you've got the fisheye lens and then the macro lens, which you can attach to the bottom main camera here, which allow you to get some really interesting shots. Fisheye lens, meh, not really all that bothered. The macro though is sick, like super, super cool. I personally think the best setup for this would be pop on the universal case, leave it on, and bring that macro lens with you if you're into getting some really up close shots, because I thought this was going to be just sort of a blah lens and just a gimmick, but actually it's super detailed, super, super accurate, like you can see here in a couple of shots that we've taken. Overall, the camera experience though, the 8 megapixel ultra wide is a bit of a miss, primarily because if you look in the bottom corners of the photos that we've taken, it does blur a lot. So that is either vignetting or it's just not able to achieve the same level of detail as it would with a higher megapixel ultra wide lens, which is a bit of a shame. In terms of things like nighttime photography, very hit and miss. You can get some really, really good shots out looking outward, they look really good, but if you go closer, they do lose a lot of detail, which is a bit of a shame. But overall, the experience in nighttime photography is pretty good. And then this camera, the main 50 megapixel camera lens on the back as a whole, actually does a really good job. In no way would I recommend it in terms of its zoom, because if you get to up to 10 to 20 zoom, you do lose a lot of data. It doesn't do a good job of rendering a lot of the photos, but generally performance as a whole across that is really good. So normal photos from the main lens, wide angles, as well as your portrait shots, they look really, really good. Super punchy color, tons of detail in that main lens if you're not zooming. If you get to 5x zoom, it's actually still pretty good. Beyond that, I would say no, but generally speaking, those triple camera array is good, not great, which you could probably gather is okay at this price point. One other thing we want to talk about is the processor. Now, this hasn't really changed much from the Phone 1 because that was a 7300, this is a 7300 Pro, but the processor in this, super interesting. When it comes to a processor, you get a Dimensity 7300 Pro, which is just an uprooted version of the 7300. Benchmarks are very, very limited, but what I would say on this is, in terms of our experience, it does a really good job of managing its thermals. No issues at all. So if you're a casual gamer, this will do an amazing job on just your casual games. If you're sort of a high-end gamer, things like Call of Duty or a generic racing game, whatever it will be, it runs very, very well. No issue at all with anything like heat management, any throttling, anything like it getting overly warm, etc. It runs really, really well. And in that, alongside just browsing the web, Wi-Fi connectivity, all that's been excellent. It's been really, really good. And also on the performance point of view, 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 33 watts of charging. 33 watts is not great, but it's good. And battery life in this phone has been excellent. The other addition I wanted to mention, this spec here we have is 256, base is 128. You can also add an additional 2 terabyte micro SD card at the bottom, which is sick. So then that gives you an oodles of space for your photos, your gaming, etc. And generally one of the highlights of the CMF 2 Pro has been its modularity as its plus point, but also this is an excellent phone for the price. So this spec at 249 gives you 256 gigabytes of storage. If you spend an additional £50, roughly, you'll get that universal case and those additional lenses. So it's amazing value for money in that sense. And I would say there's a lot of highs on this phone. Things like the added macro lens, the additional modularity, the screen is excellent. I would say 2 terabytes additional storage, brilliant, really good battery life. There's tons and tons. And then the design as well, although it is that two-tone back, it looks really, really good and it feels nice and sturdy and almost rugged in the hand. The downsides, there are quite a few here. The camera performance is meh, it's not great. The macro is sort of the highlight of the camera performance personally. And then if you look at the IP56 dust and water protection, that's a bit of an issue as well, which is a bit of a shame. And then the compatibility with last year's cases to this year's, again, with the addition of those lenses, makes it a bit of a different one. You also don't get OIS in the camera as well, which also is a bit of a shame. Overall though, the CMF Phone 2 Pro is an easy recommendation, especially at that 219 to 249 price tag. It's probably one of the best budget phones you'll be able to buy and best phones you'll be able to buy in 2025. Thank you so much for watching. Till the next one, we out.